Hi, it's Sarah here from Thriving Solo, and today we're going to take a little peek at mindfulness and the science of mindfulness in healthcare in particular. Mindfulness often gets dismissed as being nice but fluffy, but in actual fact, the research sort of shows that it is one of the most reliable, low-cost ways to improve stress regulation, attention, and emotional resilience in both patients and clinicians. So it's something that we can use within our healthcare practice. It's something that we can use for ourselves and we can use it for our clients as well. Why we need it for ourselves is because we're constantly working in an environment that carries a high cognitive load. You're having to be always on. We've got complex cases, we've got limited time, and there are big emotions involved, both our clients and to some extent ours as well. And a nervous system that's often stuck in the on mode. And again, like I say, that's something that also passes on to our clients as well. This video isn't about becoming a meditator or adding another task to your day, but it's about looking at the science of why mindfulness works, explained in plain English, and how those mechanisms can translate into real-world clinical benefits. Today, we're very much framing mindfulness as a support mechanism for ourselves as practitioners to protect our energy and our decision-making capacity. Of course, we can then also turn around and pass this on to our clients for their own self-care between sessions. But to do that with integrity, we need to walk that walk ourselves. I don't know about you, but I was actually taught mindfulness as part of my acupuncture training. Again, it was one of those that was given to us as a tool within our toolbox for ourselves and also for our clients. So why is it that mindfulness actually works? We're going to have a look at the three mechanisms that are behind better outcomes. There are more than three mechanisms, but I'm looking in particular at those that support our healthcare environment. There's the more that comes into it for our clients, but these are the key ones that can help us day to day. So number one is attention regulation. Training the mind to stop wandering on autopilot. And what's happening without it is our brain loves a habit loop. Under stress, our attention narrows, it threat scans, where we're looking around to see where that threat is coming from, and it defaults to overthinking. What if? I should have done. I can't keep up. In clinic, that can show up as reduced focus and more errors when you're under time pressure. It can show up as poorer listening because your mind's already on the next task. It can show up as difficulty switching off after work because really, is there any after work? We tend to move on to the non-clinical tasks of running a business. So what mindfulness can change, if we allow it to, is it trains your ability to notice where your attention is and move it on purpose. It's not about emptying your mind, it's about interrupting the autopilot and regaining choice. So why does this matter in healthcare? Attention is the gateway to just about everything else. Clinical reasoning, empathy, communication skills, decision making. If you can stabilize your attention and your focus, you're less likely to get hijacked by stress-driven thinking processes. So this can actually help you with faster recovery from interruptions, taking notes, calls, multitasking. It can help with less mental spillover after difficult sessions and better presence with clients without having to work harder. So one of the things that we can do is simply, 30 seconds of notice, name, return. We notice our mind wandering. We name what it's doing, maybe planning the next session, and we return to what we're supposed to be focused on, or our body if that's an easier interim step. And that strengthens the skill of redirecting attention without self-criticism. So, like I say, attention is like a flashlight. It points somewhere and the brain follows. If we don't point it somewhere for the brain to follow, the brain will go into that habit structure, working through the same issue time and again. So mindfulness trains you to aim it and then bring it back when it wanders. So number 2 is it helps the nervous system come down from high alert. And healthcare work often keeps the body in a semi-activated stress state. You're having to keep concentrated on your client and be aware of what they are doing, how they are responding. You may end up with a sympathetic arousal, shallow breathing, muscle tension, elevated vigilance, because, as I say, your concern is for your client. And over time, that baseline activation can become our normal, which then contributes to irritability, poor sleep and fatigue, a reduced tolerance for uncertainty, and a greater risk of burnout, especially when combined with high responsibility and low recovery. And as I say, because we're running a business as well, we have that high responsibility, low recovery kind of baked in with what we're doing day to day. So how can mindfulness help us with this aspect? Mindfulness practices, especially the breath and body-based ones, help us to notice stress cues earlier and shift the physiological state. So the goal isn't to eliminate stress, it's more to improve recovery, the ability to downshift. And why this matters in our healthcare environment is that our nervous system is part of that healthcare environment. Our clients pick up on our signals. When you're regulated, you can communicate better, you can make cleaner decisions, and you're less reactive in challenging conversations. And we all know that some of our clients can be challenging. So if we can help become less reactive to that sort of state, then that's good for us and it's good for our clients. So this ends up where we have a less wired but tired feeling at the end of the day. We've got more stable energy across sessions, and we've got an improved capacity to respond rather than react. So this is where we're just going to do a physiological reset. So it might be a little of box breathing, for example. And that sort of breathing as well can help us if we're in session with a client who is in a higher state of anxiety, again, they take a cue from us and our breathing. So if they're in a high state of anxiety and our breathing is a little bit unregulated, they're going to pick up that cue from us. You can help clients sync to your breathing. It is something that can happen naturally in session anyway, but you can certainly help clients sync to that breathing by taking deeper breaths yourself. So just keep it simple. Remember that your nervous system is scanning for danger all day. It's just our natural reaction. Mindfulness helps us notice the early signs of threat and then choose a response rather than just react. Okay, so looking at the third mechanism, and this is emotional regulation. It's about changing our relationship to thoughts, feelings, and symptoms. Without mindfulness, then when emotions are running high, maybe we've got a patient who's in distress or there's some conflict, they challenge the treatment plan that you want to pursue, or there's uncertainty or your own self-doubt, then the brain can actually treat feelings like facts, and that can either drive avoidance, I don't want to go there with this patient, or it can drive over-functioning, I need to fix this right now, or it can drive an emotional residue, that feeling of carrying sessions through to the next client, or at the end of the day to your home life. And for our clients, this same mechanism can fuel symptom distress. So as I said about anxiety, that can amplify bodily sensations or pain triggering fear and protective tension. So what does mindfulness change? It builds our awareness, our ability to observe thoughts and feelings without actually being fused with them. So you can learn to recognize this is anxiety, this is not danger. This is a thought, this is not truth. And that can be something that we really need within our practice because of us being solo practitioners. When we're not necessarily getting feedback from a supervisor, somebody in a teaching role, then we know already that we can start to go down rabbit holes worrying about what we're doing. And we start to confuse, something that we're doing to try out and experiment with something that is a danger. So a small shift creates space for choice, and that's the foundation of emotional regulation. And why this helps us is that it's going to support better client communication. So we've got less escalation, more clarity. It can help us create stronger boundaries, again, less emotional over-involvement, and an improved adherence and self-management for our clients because the overwhelm drops. So what that means for us is that we end up with less dread before known difficult sessions. We can have greater compassion without it depleting our energy. And we can have reduced aftershock following emotionally heavy work. We can rebound much quicker. And one way that we can do this is just quietly labelling, not necessarily out loud, just quietly labelling to lower emotional intensity and help us stay present in the session. So it might be sadness, it might be frustration, it might be worry, but actually naming it can help us recognize and just, as I say, lower that emotional intensity so we don't get quite so wound up and stressed out. And we will talk in a future session as well about how this translates more for our clients. But as I say, today is about how we can use it in our healthcare practice. So mindfulness builds a pause for us. And that pause is where choice lives. We don't have to react. We can respond with a known choice. So that's our 3 mechanisms that we can use within clinic for mindfulness. And for our action plan today, I want you simply to connect with how you feel about mindfulness. Do you use it already? If so, then think about a time it helped you within the last week. Which of the 3 mechanisms applied, or was it something else? If so, please drop me a comment. As I said, it's not confined to these 3 mechanisms, but these are the ones that I think are probably the most appropriate for us to use within clinic work. But make a note of how it helped you so that you can share that example with your clients in future, whether that's on a one-to-one or whether it's a social media post. It's something that you can help provide as an example to help them get into mindfulness and understand where it can help them. If you haven't been using it, what's holding you back? In our next video, we're going to look at some common myths and misconceptions about mindfulness. And it might be that there are 1 or 2 of these that are holding you back, and there's bound to be something in there that's holding some of your clients back as well, which is a shame because mindfulness helps your brain and nervous system to recover from stress more efficiently so that thoughts, emotions and symptoms don't take over as quickly. And we can all use a little of that. So thanks for stopping by, and just have a little look for mindfulness in your own practice this next week.